about a friend of hers whose new washing machine had just flooded the basement. And I was really confused by that story. Why had she let that happen? I mean, surely my mother's friend knew that bad things were avoidable. Surely she knew that if you plan properly and do everything right, nothing bad will ever happen ever again. I mean, I knew it, and I was only 8. Now, to be fair, I hadn't always known. When I was little, like 3 and 4, some bad things happened. My parents got divorced, and my father tried to take me, and the world just kept tumbling and crumbling down, and there was nothing that I could do about any of it. But lucky for me, a woman gets much smarter when she turns 8. The truth is that I never really grew out of my 8-year-old wisdom. I have always tried to control the events of my life so that bad things won't happen to me. The problem is that it doesn't always work. October 4, 2002 was a beautiful Friday. I'd spent the night with my good friend Dean, whom I'd recently started dating. Now, ours was an extremely passionate relationship, but it was very new and it was untested. That morning, Dean treated me to what I think might have been the best orgasm of my life. It does feel a little disrespectful to call one the best over all the rest. But there it was. I remember lying on the bed thinking, oh my, I think that might have been it. Nadine wanted to stay in bed, of course, but I was already on the move. We had a plan to go hiking, and the day was getting away from us. So boots, bananas, and out the door. We went to Charmley Park. Charmley's in the Malibu Hills. It's flat and grassy, and it's dotted with small oak groves all through the park. It's beastly hot that day. And so Dean and I wandered into one of the groves seeking some shade, and there in the corner was a magnificent tree. See, I've always loved climbing. As a kid, I would climb anything. Fences, statues, my father's VW bug. It was about strategizing, negotiating my weight. I wanted to move like a cat, or find the path that only a mountain goat would know. It was just satisfying on so many levels, and so, of course, when I saw the perfect tree, I started climbing. Dean's back was to me. I later found out he was peeing. And by the time he turned around, I was 20 feet up. And then he started climbing, and then from my perch, I saw this other perch that looked so much better than the one I was in. It's remarkable how often somewhere else looks better than wherever I happen to be. So I started climbing down toward it, and when I got there, I was about 15 feet off the ground, and I was standing almost perfectly vertical. My feet were balanced on 2 really thick branches, and my left hand was resting lightly on a small branch behind my body. Dean started telling the longest joke in history, and while I was waiting for a punchline, I heard a loud crack. As soon as I heard it, I knew exactly what was happening. That branch I'd been resting my hand on broke, and there was enough of my weight behind me that I started to fall backward. Dean and I looked at each other for an instant, and I reached in front of me to see if there was anything I could grab, but there was nothing there. And Dean was out of reach. There was nothing I could do but fall, and nothing he could do but watch. And in that moment, I realized that I had a choice. I could fight to control what was happening, just like I'd done throughout my life in all different circumstances. Or I could let go and put my life in the hand of fate. I chose to let go. And I remember sweet, sweet bliss of that surrender, of abandoning my life finally to its natural flow, at this moment rushing toward the ground. I remember the peace I felt. I was like a feather falling through syrup. I had time to notice everything. Time stretches under the scrutiny of total presence. And then the ground shot up and hit me, as if it had been traveling toward me throughout my lifetime, gaining speed to meet me at this exact moment. Dean scrambled down, utterly panicked. He was terrified that he was going to find me bloody or unconscious. I'm sure that you can imagine his relief when he dropped down next to me and he saw that I was neither of those things. And then I asked him where my legs were. What do you mean? They're right here. And I saw him reach out, but I couldn't see where his hand landed and I didn't feel anything. So I reached down myself and I felt something so soft. It was silken, really. And I said, "What is that?" And he said, "It's your leg." While I was waiting for Dean to get help, laying in the dirt, staring up at the branches, the leaves, the sky between the leaves, I heard a voice inside my head. It's my own voice. And it said, "Everything you need to know is happening right now. Surrender, presence, faith. That's the way home. Remember." In the end, the extent of the damage, I shattered the 11th vertebra. I dislocated my spine, and I crushed completely my spinal cord. In a fraction of a second, I become paraplegic. Welcome to Craig Hospital. We're so sorry you've had to join us. But let's get to work. Here, you will learn to turn over in bed and get dressed by yourself. You will learn to cook, clean, shop, and drive from a wheelchair. You will learn all manner of transfers: chair to bed, chair to toilet, chair to shower bench, chair to couch, chair to car seat, chair to airline seat. You'll learn how to check for pressure sores, how to protect yourself from them. You'll learn how to use a catheter, how to manage your bowels. I know, it sounds unpleasant, but you don't want to be incontinent, do you? We'll practice all kinds of wheelchair skills: wheelies and hills and gravel and grass and opening heavy doors. All this while you battle nausea and lightheadedness and contemplate the end of life as you know it. Ready? Dean spent a week with me in the hospital. I don't think either one of us knew where our relationship stood before he arrived, but pretty much as soon as he got there, we were inseparable. Every night, Dean would squeeze his 6'5" frame into my tiny hospital bed and sleep with me. They would come in every 4 hours to roll me over and empty my catheter bag, and he would just get up, stand in the corner until they were done, and then come arrange himself on the other side of me. It was on that visit that we made love for the first time post-injury. Now, I suspect that many of you are secretly relieved we have finally gotten to the sex issue. Because after, what were you common question. Of course, it's hard to know for sure because no one is actually asking it to my face. But I feel fairly confident that this is something you would like to know, and I am going to tell you. Now, if by chance you are among the few who would rather not know, like maybe you're my mother, now would be a really good time to plug your ears. But for the rest of you, brave souls that I know you are, welcome to the primer on spinal cord injury, love. Prudence from Peoria would like to know, do you still make love? Yes, Prudence, yes I do, but intercourse, only rarely. Can you still have an orgasm? No, not in the traditional sense, but I have had physical climaxes that I would certainly call orgasmic. If you're not having intercourse, how do you satisfy your boyfriend's needs? Superbly. But that's probably not what this question means. Look, I have hands, I have a mouth, I have a warm body. I satisfy them with everything I have. Do you have needs? Absolutely. And though you didn't ask, he satisfies them with everything he has. Can you feel him if he touches you there? Well, if there is anywhere below here, no, I can't. If he's going to touch me, he either has to tell me what he's doing, or he has to lace his fingers in mine and let me touch me with him. That way I can know where he is, and I can sense the quality of his touch. Are other parts of your body more sensitive now? Yes, but not as much as I was expecting them to be. What happens then when someone touches your breast? Well, that depends highly on who's doing the touching. But if it's my guy, it makes me happy. Oh, this one's for the local La Leche League. Can you still get pregnant? Can you have a baby? Yes, yes, and I have. And finally, is your sex life satisfying? You betcha. There was a time in the beginning when this injury seemed like a means to an end. It was an opportunity that I requested and received. And at that time, it seemed obvious that the paralysis wasn't intended to be permanent. Now maybe those instincts will turn out to be right. And maybe they won't. But what you have to understand is that it doesn't matter. This is life. This chair, this circumstance, all these feelings. It's not bigger than life. It's not different from life. And no matter what I might believe about why this happened, I'm here now. And I always have a choice about how I live this life. I am no longer ruled by an 8-year-old's need for control. Dean and I are married now. And we have a beautiful baby boy who started kindergarten this week. I am exactly as paralyzed as I was the day I hit the ground. And there are a whole host of complications still emerging 14 years later. But I am so much more joyful. And I am so much more at peace. And no matter what the future holds, whether I am sitting or standing or broken or whole. I am going to embrace this life in all its messiness, its misery, and its mystery. Thank you. Please, another hand for Lyena Strelkoff.